What is up, everybody? We welcome you to SportsShack episode 46. My name is Brandon Talley, along with Dennis Tui. Now we got a lot to talk about in the sports world. I know Dennis wanted to talk about the World Baseball Classic. You know, it was last week, but it's definitely still a hot topic to talk about, especially after the USA disappointed from what it was. You know, I feel like it's definitely a disappointing performance as a whole because, you know, especially what happened against Team Italy, how they kind of didn't know how everything worked. They almost were eliminated in the first round, like even before. So they wouldn't even have qualified. It said make it as far as they did. Luckily, they were able to make it to the championship game. The DR game was definitely kind of a little questionable to me. I know they won 2-1, and I feel like the Dominican Republic was just insane. They were just dominant. It was just a dominant World Baseball Classic in general. I know Venezuela was good. The USA was dominant at times. The DR and Team Italy. I think I said Italy, right?
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, of course, Venezuela came out on top and the USA lost and everyone's kind of disappointed. A lot of people questioning Judge, whether he's clutch in the moment. And I feel like I'll ask Dennis in a bit, but I got to ask, what are your thoughts on the World Baseball Classic and how it came out?
I am mad that I wasn't there. I was supposed to go.
I know
I've
you
been
said you
saying
wanted
for
to go.
years I was going to go back because I went in 23. Had a great time. And this time, like, you know, for the last couple of years, people have been saying, like, yeah, I'd go. Yeah, I'd go. And one by one, everybody kind of just, like, fell apart. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll stay home. It's on St. Patrick's Day, so I'll just hang out with my dad and my mom. I'm like,
Right.
all right, fine. But, yeah, man, like, I was disappointed. Because I wanted USA to win, obviously, but losing to Venezuela, I don't want to get like political here or anything. Like that country needs it, man. Rough year, you know. Like good for them. So they got a lot going on. Get your mind off things for a little bit. Celebrate, have fun, you know. So if we lost to anybody, and the other thing, like if we lost to Italy, it'd be cool because, you know, expanding baseball in Europe, a continent where it's known and played, but not really that popular. Like, I think if you were to ask the guys on Great Britain to read a passage of Sir Arthur Doyle's Sherlock Holmes, I don't think there's too many English accents on that roster. But Italy, everybody was saying it. I have no problem with it. But the fact that, like, none of them were actually Italian, you know, like, it'd feel weird. It would feel weird. So I'm happy that...
You mean none of them Italian?
Brandon,
I mean,
Brandon, you're not Italian.
I mean,
you're Italian American. You're
Italian American, right?
Yes, but you're not from Italy.
No, I'm from Seaford, New York.
That's what I mean. It's not
right.
Like
no, I understand that. No, because
right,
I know you had Aaron Nola, who's playing Michael Lorenzen.
Right. Yeah. Like if I was on Team Poland and like all my teammates were getting hype, and I'm like, yeah, and the Zdrowia. You know, like it would be weird. I'm not Polish. I'm a Polish American.
Right. You know. So how did it work though? I guess they had like descent in them that like
it's every country has their own rule. For a while, like some countries are very strict about it. Cuba is very strict. If you defected from Cuba, even though embargoes and stuff like that have kind of left, if you've defected from Cuba, you're not allowed on their team. And if your ancestors defected from Cuba, you're not allowed on their team.
Wow.
So
that's pretty.
That's why Randy Rosarena, who's Cuban born, is playing for Mexico, because he has family of Mexican descent or something like that.
Okay, Mexican descent. Yeah.
So like every country has their own rule, but because Italy, again, they don't have. There's not a lot of native Italians playing baseball.
Right.
They have kind of like a wider net. And for anybody that's like crying about it, it's like, dude, stop it. Hakeem Olajuwon won a gold medal for Team USA. Stop it. Shut up.
It was still, I think Team Italy though. They definitely came under shock. They were kind of like under the radar type team, you know, because I didn't expect them to beat Team USA, and I feel like the game they were just dominant from start to finish in that game, you know, and just the shock from Team USA, just watching them. I remember seeing Harper and Judge, like you just seeing them in the dugout, Team Italy celebrating. It was good. One of the players shouted out God, which is great. You always want to see people do that. Very humbling and great. And obviously, like I said, Team Italy just looked really good. I forgot, but what's the player that had like 2 home runs? I forgot his
Vinny Pasquantino.
Cantino, yeah.
The Pasquatch.
Pasquatch, yeah. Where's he play?
The Royals.
He's on the
He's
Royals.
still on the Royals, yeah.
Yeah. I know he said something about the Jets in the offseason. I know not to bring up the Jets.
He's a diehard
He did
Jets
say
fan.
something about them in the offseason, a good thing. And actually, was it?
He's a diehard Jets fan. He's been on the Rich Eisen show a bunch of times talking about the Jets.
Yeah, that's what made me follow him. Actually, I follow him on social media because of that. But yeah, no. So, good for Venezuela. What's going on in the country right now. It's good that they were able to take the win and get the gold medal. Very cool showing at the end. Obviously Team USA, in terms of them, like a lot of people coming after Judge, but then again, it's a team effort. The whole lineup, I think that game, and a lot of people coming after Nolan McLean, which, hey, I get it. But he only gave up like 1 run, 2 runs. Like, come on, are we really going to get after? Like, come on, that's pretty good in my opinion, especially for a rookie like him. And I know your thoughts. Hold on, just wait a damn minute. The whole lineup, I feel like, didn't show up, and I know we're all going to get on Judge. I feel like people get on him enough as it is. Yeah, has not been touched. I get that. He deserves a lot of not a lot, but some of the blame. Yes, the whole lineup, definitely needs to get some slack. I know a lot of people telling me like, hey, Paul Goldschmidt, he's kind of getting up there. There's another player. I can't think of the name right now, but I remember they saying, of course, it was a Met and a Red Sox that blew it for America. And I'm like, hey, come on. I know Harper's kind of up there too, but he's still kind of playing at a high level, in my opinion. Of course, I guess maybe they just needed more star power than needed. And I feel like definitely the managing should need to come into question, because I didn't like how Mark DeRosa didn't know much of the rules heading into the game against Team Italy, because they kind of set them up for failure in a way. And I know people saying that they should have used Mason Miller in the 9th, but he was saving them up for if they were able to get the runs, like if they had the lead. A lot to go into here. What do you think, Dennis? I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, like I think people are too harsh on Mark DeRosa because he has such a hard time. It's him not knowing the rule against Team Italy is ridiculous. That's inexcusable.
Oh, sure.
Although I also thought Team USA would have had the tiebreaker regardless. That I don't know how much I could fault him for it, because it was like a weird kind of Mexican standoff between the U.S., Mexico, and Italy, that they were all, there's a situation where all of them could have beaten the other in a triangle. So I get that there was like a weird kind of path that yes, Mexico still could have won, but the U.S. could have lost, despite beating them. That it was but it was such a slim chance that actually would have happened, that I also kind of understand, maybe from his perspective, they were just looking at who they're going to be playing next and just signals got crossed. Okay, fine. I think people are bashing him a little too hard. We need a real big league manager. Who? Everybody's already in the season. And the other thing that he has to worry about is teams not letting guys play.
Yeah, Screwball was only there for a game.
That's a problem that exists for the U.S. and not really anybody else. The Dodgers told Japan, we don't want Ohtani pitching. Okay, but you're Japan, you could kind of work around it. You have a whole other league to pull from that's similar, albeit not exactly the same, to MLB caliber players that you could kind of work around, and guys that have experience playing with each other in a legit national program.
Right.
The problem with the USA is their players can't hold teams hostage. Danny Palencia closed the game for Venezuela. The Cubs said, if it's a safe situation in the 9th inning, we'll let you use Danny Palencia. The Venezuelans could have played Danny Palencia anyway. Why?
Yeah.
Because those, the countries, the Latin countries, it means so much to them to play as a country in the World Baseball Classic. I don't think it's the same in the U.S. as much. We're all okay, cool, the World Baseball Classic, whatever, start the regular season, please.
Yeah,
and we're like that with the Olympics as well. Yeah. But for them, it's because all their countrymen are representing their country. It's a different mentality that if a team were to kind of block Venezuela from using Danny Palencia or Luis Arias or anybody,
Right.
that would hurt them with making trades. Guys might be more, inclined to use their no trade clause. I don't want to go to a
Right.
team that's not going to let me play for my country. Not happening.
Yeah. That's why Lindor didn't play for Puerto Rico. Because
Right.
of the
And
insurance.
insurance.
Insurance. A lot
And
of players,
it could hurt them in free agency if you block guys from the DR or Venezuela from playing. I just think
also
that the
think,
actual culture and relationship our players and fans included have with the national side of the game is way different
than the international side.
Right, in the U.S. than it is elsewhere. That I just it is so hard. Like Mark DeRosa is like, I'm going into a gold medal game and my best player, my best pitcher on the roster isn't even available to me. I can't use Paul Skeens. I can't use Tariq Skubal either. I thought they should use Clayton Kershaw because Nolan McLean, young guy, didn't look good in that other game. He started off fine and he imploded. He's a young guy. I get it. But at the same time, too, this is a winner. This isn't a series. It's a winner go home. It's tough. If Clayton Kershaw loses, it's like, yeah, but that's the best left-handed pitcher of the 21st century. Okay, fine. You can't be mad. So it's maybe that could have been called into question. I think some people would say, why would you bench Cal Raleigh going into the gold medal game for Will Smith? Will Smith was way better in the World Baseball Classic. As much as we want to dunk on Judge, Cal Raleigh didn't get a hit. I think he got like one hit the entire tournament. He sucked. So it's tough, man. It's tough when you're managing an all-star team day in and day out, and you have the powers that be needling you. And you're the perceived prohibitive favorite. That's a tall ask, man. And I think that's a reason why a lot of managers wouldn't sign up for it, which is why they went to Mark DeRosa in the first place. Years ago, it was Bruce Bochy. Then he went back to MLB with the Rangers. I think he has since retired again. But I just think it's a, you get no glory if you win the gold medal because, well, your team's absolutely loaded. You should have won. And you get all the grief if you lose. And someone's got to do it. So it's easy to kind of put it on the
Someone's going to be the lame duck. Yeah. Someone's going to be the lame duck.
So.
Yeah, hey, perfectly well said, Dennis. I know what you alluded to before, like, the USA maybe didn't take it as seriously as maybe other countries. And, you get a test of it. I mean, it's definitely shown. I mean, and I'm just saying, like, what I mean by that is, like, soccer is huge in other countries. Soccer, I feel like, is regarded as probably the biggest sport in the world, and in a lot of countries as well. That's like that, but baseball as well. Baseball is definitely big well overseas, internationally, especially in places like Venezuela, Dominican Republic, in Japan, so maybe like in football and with America, I feel like there's so much, like, there's different sports that are like kind of take control of like what's like popular, what's like the mainstream, like what's at the moment, so, and especially in, baseball is big in other countries where like there's like the World Baseball Classic. This was their Super Bowl. This was their Olympics. And they showed it right there, Maybe they do it differently than maybe we do in America. So where it's like us, it's like you said, the World Baseball Classic. It's like, oh, okay, But to them, it was like huge for them. And I thought the World Baseball Classic this year, I feel like it was definitely more popular than any other years, in my opinion. And I love seeing that. I love seeing over the years, baseball has definitely took huge strides in getting back into popularity because people worried over the years of it dipping down in viewership and popularity. And I feel like over the past couple of years, it's definitely changed. And I feel like the World Baseball Classic is definitely is representing of that. Now, in terms of, players teams not wanting players to play, I understand that, especially with Tariq Skubal. Like, say, God forbid, he would tear his UCL, and now he's Tommy John. This is a big year for him, So, and especially with the Tigers, they fought hard for arbitration for him. I get it. Look what happened to Evan Diaz. I feel like the Mets were scarred for that, and especially, that definitely was a big injury that scarred a lot of teams. You can make the argument that's example why teams let other.
I hate it. I hate that excuse so much. I hate that excuse so much.
Okay,
Rhys Hoskins.
Sorry, I had a little error right there.
Rhys Hoskins was
You can make the argument, and I'll wrap it up real quick. You can make the argument.
I think I might have lost you. You there, bud?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. While he's loading, I feel like anybody can make that argument, even with spring training. Like Rhys Hoskins missed an entire year with a torn ACL running the bases in spring training. Like, at least make it mean something is the way I look at it. Like, anybody can get hurt in spring training. Guys do get hurt in spring training all the time, but they get hurt doing, whoa, I guess I'll just hang out and I'll hang out in the bunny box. Guys get hurt in spring training all the time. And it is what it is. That I feel like I would oh, buddy, looking good.
Thank you.
It looks like your connection's gotten much better. But as I was just saying, well, after you had gotten kicked out by the evil Wi-Fi monster.
Luckily, thank God for personal hotspots. Continue.
So I had said, guys get hurt.
I got your bubbles boiling a bit. I know you were looking to jump at me through the screen when I was talking about the Diaz.
But like I was saying, guys get hurt in spring training all the time.
It's true.
So why would you play in a meaningless game? That's just the way I look at it. Like, I'd rather have a spring training where I'm with the best of the best from the leagues. Not only that, I could also help recruit players for you. We know this from the Olympics with basketball, how important those relationships are. I get to learn new things playing with the very best of the best. And by the way, the guys, when they're doing their drills and stuff like that, the teams are giving them assignments of this is what we want him to work on, which Mark DeRosa and Team USA have to factor in.
Right.
So to me, it's like that's such like a lazy excuse. Not you saying it, but from what
other teams' perspective. Right. That's what. You know.
They want to sell it that look what he did in spring training. Tariq Skubal could have went 9 innings and threw a perfect game in spring training. You know who would have cared? Not a damn person. Why? Because all the really good players in the league are off in the international tournament.
It's true. And you know what? In terms of what you said to recruiting other players, and I do want to wrap up because I want to move on to college basketball. There's a lot going on, especially yesterday. Shout out to the Johnnies. We'll get to them in a second. Looking at the way Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis were interacting, the chemistry that they showed, especially with the whole DR team. Like, imagine, I'm just, like you said, that's a good example. Like, hey, maybe if Tatis would have become available, could come over to Queens. I'm just saying, I'm using that as an example. Like, that's, and especially with Team Italy, the way that the chemistry they were showing, and obviously in America, obviously seeing Bobby Witt playing together with other people, so yeah, I agree with that.
And real quick, this literally happened with Javi Baez when he went to the Mets. That's why it happened. Because him and Lindor from Puerto Rico.
Right, yeah. Joe Lacalano said that's why hockey is sick. These guys don't care about getting hurt. Yeah, honestly. Well, you look at Jack Hughes. He literally lost a tooth and scored the game-winning goal in the same game. Kind of shows right there, for the Olympics and hockey. Shows why hockey is sick. So yeah, that's. I could attest. I could agree to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, and I by the way, I think that they should stop the season halfway through for the Olympics in baseball too. Why not? Give the fans what they want. No, dude, if it's August 11th, there's nobody who gives a damn about that game, bruh. If you think I'm sitting there to watch a White Sox versus Yankees game on August 11th, you're out of your damn mind.
Yeah, you know what? That's definitely. I forgot where I saw that. That's definitely a big question mark.
Bryce Harper's been really driving that.
I don't think it's a bad idea. It's worth a try. I mean, granted, how Rob Manfred feels, but at the same time, maybe that's something that maybe baseball needs also, like to keep spicing it up more, keep viewership going, but it depends how other countries feel about that too. We got to also play into factor with that. Like if they're on the same boat, they might be, probably. I know they were talking about, that's what they're talking about. I was watching, I think it was either Get Up or First Take. And I know how we feel about First Take, but Get Up, I love watching Get Up. They were talking about, flag football. I know the Flag Football Classic, the Fanatics Flag Football Classic was this weekend. Tom Brady was playing, and it was cool to see him still slinging it. where if honestly, like, I would still consider signing him if a team had the opportunity. Another topic, but you look at, they were talking about how whether in the Olympics in 28 that's flag football's debut, and a lot of people questioning like, would you want Saquon Barkley out there? Would you want Joe Burrow out there? And I mean, in my perspective, I'm kind of more on the side where, hey, I mean, I get both sides. If I had to pick, I feel like I would pick maybe wanting to go represent your country and, traveling, playing in the Olympics, opportunity for winning a gold medal. I think that opportunity is sick, in my opinion, if I was in these players' shoes and just the way they're representing the country and the brand of football. And I don't know, but it should be exciting. Supposedly, I think Team USA got their butts kicked in the Flag Football Classic. I got to dive more into that. But that's just my thoughts. And I know they said the Olympics is during the beginning of training camp. That's when teams want your quarterbacks. That's when they want their players there. I get that. But that's my perspective. What do you think, Dennis?
I think for the flag football thing, it's different in the regards that I don't think active NFL players should be allowed to play.
That's good.
Imagine this. I played tackle football and flag football as a kid. Imagine you play flag football for whatever reason growing up. You get clowned on for playing flag football and not tackle football. You realize as you get older, you can maybe get a college scholarship for it or some competitive leagues. You do that. You then realize from there that there's semi-pro leagues that you can get paid whatever little bit of money you get that's basically a beer league salary. Fine. You do that. You do that well enough, and you find out that the sport's expanding, and now you're going to be in the Olympics. Great. And now you found out that even though you're one of the best people and you started from the very beginning, you're now getting shafted because some guy who played tackle football and gets millions of dollars is taking your spot, and you'll never have this opportunity again. It's not fair. If you're going to sit here and say sports is the great meritocracy, and that's why if you beat the hell out of your wife, you're allowed back in these leagues, save it. Don't shaft those guys. That's not fair. Not right. It's not right. I understand. Yeah. I know Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes and if we put out our all-star team of best quarterbacks and best wide receivers, we'll probably do pretty darn good and win the whole thing. Ultimately, flag football just kind of comes down to he who runs fastest will win. But besides the point, I don't want to hear it. It's not fair. You guys have the Super Bowl. You have hundreds of millions of people watching your game throughout an entire season. You get thousands of dollars in jersey sales. You get endorsements, which is independent of that, which could be another $1 million throughout your entire career, probably more so if you're a quarterback or a top-tier player. Not fair. Leave it for the guys that actually need it. Give them their moment. All right? They're not going to have a Super Bowl. They're not going to have Beyonce at the halftime show. Come on. Damn, I don't understand. Like, could you imagine if they put men's softball in the Olympics, Brandon, and Aaron Judge showed up and said, "Put me in, coach"? It'd be a little weird. It's the exact same thing. It's literally the exact same thing. So I just like people that are like whining about it and whatnot. And it'd be even funnier is if our NFL players show and lose. Because that could happen too. Because again, flag football, what are you going to do? You're going to put Amir Garrett? No, Amir Garrett. Myles Garrett on the defense of a flag football team. You know what that's going to matter with? Not a darn thing. He can't tackle anybody. So all the size and strength and whatnot you have is kind of meaningless. That if you have some guy from, I'll say Jamaica or something like that, that was some former track star, it's like, hey, you know what? Can you play wide receiver for us? Sure, yeah. May not be good enough to run track, but might be good enough to just run a vertical route. And he starts burning cornerbacks in the NFL because he's lightning fast. That's not going to look too good either. So just leave it to flag football players.
That's true. Hey, you make a good point right there. It's such a good point. I feel like with, in terms of the embarrassment part, look at the World Baseball Classic. How's America, it's kind of the same thing. So, I mean, but, it's true. I guess that's kind of where the flag football should shine. Maybe have retired players come in too. So, like I said, risk injury. Same thing with the World Baseball Classic. A lot to discuss, but hey, that's why we have these shows. That's why we That's why we have these discussions, and that's why we have the times. Hopefully, the league figures out what they're doing with flag football. I got to look more into the rules and who is participating. I keep seeing that Jalen Hurts commercial about he throws the football into the fire, the Olympic fire. But yeah. Anyway, so now I kind of want to dive into March Madness. It's been overall really fun. Before we dive into the games that were happening yesterday between St. John's and then the Iowa Hawkeyes beating Florida. Just fun March Madness so far. I've over the years, I don't watch college basketball as much. I'll say that first more. But I have been following March Madness, and that's because I've been in the brackets, and I've been, the brackets are fun. You rooting for, you pick these teams you think are going to win. You think that you have your champion team. Like my team is Arkansas in two of my brackets, and that's it. And so, obviously watching the first round, it was just pretty good. High Point with the upset. That was pretty insane. Siena almost beat, I think it was Kentucky.
Duke.
It was Duke. Okay. It was
That
Duke.
was crazy.
Siena. That was insane. LA, I remember people were telling me with LIU that they had no shot, and people were just saying, just comment sections on the posts were just not supporting LIU. Let's put it that way. Not that they weren't supporting LIU, but no one could have thought they were going to beat Arizona. It just wasn't going to happen. Now, Hofstra, everyone thought they had the edge because one of Alabama's players wasn't going to play, but obviously Alabama was so dominant, and they showed out otherwise. But good to Hofstra. Kudos for them making the tournament. It was pretty big. It was definitely just a big year. And I remember saying it to someone, just a big year for college basketball for New York. St. John's, Hofstra, Siena. I forgot what's the other team I'm missing. LIU, of course. There you go. So just, kudos to college basketball in New York. St. John's, obviously, what a great game yesterday against Kansas. I actually had them beating Kansas in one of my brackets. And obviously, ever since Rick Pitino came to the St. John's University, to the Johnnies, he's definitely transformed that program. A New York guy with over 45 years before coming in of college experience, winning 2 national championships with Kentucky and with Louisville. So when he came over to St. John's, it was a big deal. It was like when maybe the Jets got Bill Parcells. Is maybe when the Giants got, John Harbaugh, even though nothing's happened yet. But the level of experience and the status they are as coaches and able to transform the programs, that's kind of what Rick Pitino has done. He's changed St. John's and he's turned them into a contender. It was a big deal. And so you just see, last year they had a great season, they kind of disappointed in the tournament. I don't think they didn't make it to the Sweet 16. They lost in the second round. But you see yesterday's game, obviously, Dylan, the upset over Kansas, great game. And I questioned Kansas coaching at the end. I was kind of curious, in my opinion. Dylan Darling, obviously, his only field goal of the game was the buzzer beater to send St. John's to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 1999. And the one point where they were dominating the game, I remember watching the game. St. John's had control of the game from the start, even in leading to the second half, but they did blow a 14-point lead. Bryce Hopkins with 18 points, 6 threes made, and obviously Zuby Ejiofor, Big East Player of the Year, as Dennis alluded to before we started the show, with 18 points and 9 rebounds. So obviously, like I said, kudos to St. John's. Just a great game, and obviously it's exciting seeing the run that they've been on. I do know a lot of people that went to St. John's. They're excited right now, and just I know a lot of people that go to the games. Even though I did get trolled last week by some old Johnnies at Penn Station for wearing my Terrell Rivas jersey, I still support St. John's and everything they're doing. And shout out to the Johnnies. Dennis, what were your thoughts watching the game yesterday? Just a great game.
Great game.
March Madness, baby.
Kansas masterclass in coaching that last minute, and Kansas did great job. Players just weren't good enough. It happens. Johnny's got the last possession, and that's just it is what it is. I fear Kansas. You have nothing to. If you're the Jayhawks, you have nothing to be ashamed about. I understood the concept that Kansas was trying to do, keep fouling, because in the NCAA it's different than the NBA. So in the NBA, if you foul twice in the last minute or the last
twice,
2 minutes,
yes, but then
you go
the
over
4 times, right?
You go over half court.
Okay,
but in the NCAA, it doesn't work that way. So they were just kept fouling to drain the clock to hope for
Right, drain the
overtime.
clock. Right.
Good strategy. It doesn't work. It just didn't work.
It didn't work yesterday. No, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't like that
because
strategy. I would have thought. I mean, I get it. Maybe shave the clock a bit, but I would have maybe just. I don't know. Just let them shoot. You never know because they gotta get down the court. Like and now like you said, they're at half court, right, with 3 seconds left.
yeah, but then
I
you
don't
have
know.
to go. You have to go the full court as
Right.
well if they make it, and if they miss it, even then you still. I get it. I actually think they did the right thing. It just
Okay.
didn't work.
Yeah.
But
Hey, I feel like Dylan Dolan was able to just drive right down the
bad
hoop.
defense. You got
Yeah,
to get in front of them there.
it looked like if I was going down the lane, down the paint. It was
And
just and kudos to him.
the only player ever, they said it on the post game. I didn't fact check it, but the only player ever to have his only field goal be a buzzer beater. He was 1 for 5 on the day. He missed, I think, 3 threes or 4 threes, and he was 1 for 5 on the day, and it was the game winning bucket. And supposedly he said in the huddle that he was going to take the shot, and Rick Pitino after the huddle, the kid was walking away, and Rick Pitino's like, "Who the f does this kid think he is?" Like,
Yeah,
and he made
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
good for him, man.
Yeah,
Good
I
for
remember.
him.
I did watch that press conference. Yeah, like you said, Rick Pitino kind of looked at
Yeah,
him. And he
that's
explained
funny.
that what was going on down the sequence of that. Watching at the end of the game, Rick Pitino, he looks like what Mel Brooks did after when they upset Russia. He just walks down to the rink, doesn't just unfazed, and again, like two good coaches, Mel Brooks and obviously Herb Brooks, not Mel Brooks. I'm thinking
Yeah,
comedian
I was
Mel
about to
Brooks.
say, I was like,
I made that error. Sorry about that, viewers. Mel Brooks, legendary
guy from
comedian.
history. Yeah.
Legendary comedian. Herb Brooks. I'm saying, like, would Herb Brooks walk down after they upset Russia? He just walks down to and obviously Rick Pitino was just like, all right, cool. Like, I don't know what he was. I don't know if he was just shocked. I don't know. Like, I don't know what was going through his mind.
Well, when you're up by 14, you kind of expect to win that game. That like you can't really jump for joy because like you did blow the lead. Like,
He did blow the lead,
so,
right? It's
yeah,
kind of
and
the way
I
the
mean,
game
if you're
was.
Rick Pitino,
Right.
you've been here before, so I'm happy. I'm happy, man.
Right. Yeah.
I'm
And
happy.
he in the press conference, he did show he was
Yeah.
energetic. He was joking about with Dylan Darling, and I remember the press conference, and they're interacting with each other. Like he was saying, like you said, when they talk, Rick Pitino was like what was he doing? He's like, I played in middle school, I played in high school. That's what he said. I wish I could pull it up, but no, just good for the Johnnies, and it's exciting to watch them in Sweet 16. First time since 1999. I don't know who's the player you talked about.
Ron Artest, better known as Meta World Peace, also formerly known as Panda Friend. Yeah, Meta World Peace. So,
yeah, so
I forgot he went to St. John's. We were talking before the show that we've forgotten that he had gone to St. John's. I don't know why I forgot that, because immediately, some of you aren't going to care, but when they first said 1999, I was like, I guess that was the Felipe Lopez year. But I was like, no, that was actually after it. So, yeah, that was cool. I didn't expect that. I didn't realize it had been that long since they made the Sweet 16. But I guess it does make sense, as the Big East in general is kind of almost like gone extinct in NCAA basketball, and people don't really care about it anymore outside of UConn, I guess. But yeah, just like interesting. Then I was like, all right, cool.
It was just it was a great game, and I know, like I said, St. John's. I didn't really realize, I think, how big it was maybe till like this year, maybe the past year. Just like I said, the Rick Pitino effect. It's real. You see it. Like I said,
Yeah.
The games at the Garden, I feel like almost sell out. In my opinion, they're always packed, and then obviously, like I said, they're big like at the college campus. And I'm sure I think baseball is big there too, of course. But like I said, just the Johnnies, man, they came to play, and it's fun watching them because I know Sienna's out, Hofstra's out, LAU's out. It's cool to see that they're in. It would have been cool to see Stony Brook in. So now I work in Stony Brook sometimes, but obviously, it just wasn't meant to be. So like I said, just seeing what St. John's is doing, it's pretty cool right now, and it's gonna be. I think they play Duke now, so that's gonna be fun to watch. And that's gonna be interesting. Another game we want to talk about from yesterday: the Florida Gators were upsetted by the number 9 seed Iowa Hawkeyes. Hawkeyes defeated the reigning champs, top seeded Florida Gators, 73-72, as Alvaro Fulgaris. I'm pretty sure that's how I say his name. Sounds Greek. I know Dennis. We came to the point. He's probably that sounds Greek. Hit a crucial shot to send them to the Sweet 16, and Iowa was considered a small team heading into the game compared to the Gators, but the Gators were outscored 32-30 by the Hawkeyes in the paint, and they both tied in rebounding 27-27. Defensive Player of the Year, Ruben Chenyulu was held to 0 points and 1 rebound. That's insane to me. And I know the Gators were a little bit upset after yesterday's game, just the way the game folded. The defense kind of the last couple moments as Fulgaris was able to get that shot off. He was wide open and he was clutch. That's all especially in March Madness, that's what you want. You want the moments like that where your players show up in moments when it needed, and Fulgaris showed that right there, especially against a team like the Gators, who, like I said, they were the dominant team coming into the matchup. I think a lot of people had them going forward in their brackets. I know our good friend Sean Flanagan is definitely upset. So, just a good game from that.
Love it. Love a good upset. We're gonna get a new champion. Like it. I'm stoked. I like that. I don't Florida Gators going back or whatever. We've had so many like deep runs in the past where it's like the same teams. Like, let's get weird. Let's have fun. Yeah, St. John's in the Sweet 16. Why not? Iowa Hawkeyes beating the reigning champion. Well, why not? Let's have some fun. That's what I was hoping for when I picked the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors to beat Arkansas. Did not work out my way. I remember in our group chat, I said I was expecting the Lilo and Stitch Hawaiian roller coaster ride. Instead, I got the roller coaster ride from Final Destination 3. So,
I had the Gators. I had them beating. What I have? I had them beating Iowa. I was wrong with that.
And I regret not picking High Point in that first round because that was the last game I picked because I was torn. A buddy, my very close friend Kieran, he went to High Point, and I was like, I think this is going to be a closer game than I think most people would think looking at like the stats I was going on. And I was like, but I think that High Point is still going to lose. I should have just like, you know what? My friend went there. Tie goes to my friend. That's why I picked UMBC in the first round.
Right.
The play-in little mini thing they could.
I had Ohio State beating TCU. I was wrong with that. I don't know why I picked USF. I just some picks I was like, hey, you know what? Let me just say throw in upsets. So I had USF going up again, beating Louisville. I don't know why that's silly of me. UCF, big basketball college as well, along with football. I don't know why I had them over UCLA. A lot of my, good buddies of mine thought that they were going to upset UCLA. Who would have thought? I don't know why I thought that, because UCLA is one of the, biggest. They're one of the best teams this year in college basketball. Shame on me. Again, like I said, my college basketball analyst. Get my college basketball knowledge. It's limited. Surprisingly, I feel like I know more than I do. But like I said, it's limited. What else? Another upset. I think it was Kentucky. I wonder who they played. They Georgia, I know, disappointed. Okay, I had the Georgia Santa Clara game. I wish that was a great game because I remember seeing the buzzer beater from half court that tied the game. Santa Clara, the span of those 10 seconds was insane because Kentucky tied it up. And then, of course, Santa Clara drives down the court to make a three, right? So I thought that, they took the lead, and I thought that was it. Santa Clara, I remember seeing the player was, like, celebrating. Like, the game's not over yet. What are you doing? Like, you got a guy running right past you down court and makes close to half court shot for the buzzer beater, and the game goes into overtime. So that was good on Kentucky. And then, but unfortunately Kentucky couldn't beat Iowa State. So now Iowa State makes it up to the next round. And so it's been a fun March Madness. My brackets this year, I've had good brackets in the past, but this year, the first round is kind of was like there was one year I hit on almost all my first round the 64 picks. In my opinion, if I remember, I hit on most of them. Now this year, like I think I was like top 5. I did pretty good. This year, not the case. Not the case. McNeese, I remember a couple years ago or maybe last year was a big contender in the tournament. I had them beating Vanderbilt. Nope. Nope.
Yeah, like I don't do March Madness. This is my first bracket I've ever really had.
Is it really?
Yeah, so uh, it's a shame because I kind of pick for television. And this is the problem when you're me and you're a squirrel brain reality TV fan. Is you just sometimes just make decisions on what would be cool. You know what would be cool, Brandon, if the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors went far. You know what would be cool if somehow, some way St. Louis makes the Final Four. Why not? Hofstra beats who does Hofstra playing against in the
They were
first
playing
round
against
again?
Alabama.
Why not? I picked Hofstra.
No, you know what? I picked that too. I still had
I was like, why
Alabama,
not?
I think, in my bracket, my other bracket, but then in
So
the other bracket we're on, the Muse Madness, I picked Hofstra because why not? Just in case. No, I can't believe I let them fault me in that.
yeah, and I was like, Santa Clara over Kentucky. Well, I'm a big Steve Nash fan. I'll go to Santa Clara. Why not? So like, it just in the past, like I've always been like, I'm never going to pick against the UConn. Of course, I picked UCLA to beat UConn yesterday, and then UConn out of nowhere just kind of like steamrolls them to end the game. Some crummy officiating in that game got me a little annoyed, but I don't think it mattered. And it just, that's my problem.
Okay.
I pick too much based on vibes.
Yeah, I get it.
And I can't believe I actually really did like do the research on the Hawaii game against Arkansas. I was like, you know what? I think Hawaii has a chance to upset that. And I literally thought to myself, like, hey man, maybe you got a problem. So, but have fun, root for fun.
No,
it was
right,
more
right,
exciting
no.
to root for Hawaii, and then they came close at one point. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. And then I was like, all right, so they just gave up 25 unanswered points.
But it's been fun though. I've enjoyed watching the tournament so far, and in the past, it kind of made me realize, like I said, how fun it is, March Madness, and I've really understood it. College basketball, I'm like, what's going on? Like, I kind of tend to grow more of an appreciation for it, in my opinion. You know, and it's cool. Like Odo Asprey was like, I remember watching when we worked the games. Announcing for OWWR. Shout out to Odo Asprey Web Radio. Like the games, they were fun. They were competitive, and like they were, especially even though they were D3, it was a fun, it's a fun time, and that's really what the college really had. They don't have football. Baseball's big though too, and especially soccer. But like I said, they're just college basketball can be fun sometimes, and especially sometimes different from the pros. Would you attest to that?
Yeah, and the one thing that kind of like soured me on college basketball is like the way I looked at it, I was like, all right, so it's always going to be North Carolina, NC State, Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, and UConn. So why even bother? And every other year, UCLA will be like, oh, watch out. So what's the point? And now as I've gotten older, and it's maybe NIL money or whatever, that like now I feel like there's more variance.
Right.
Now it's like it's a more enjoyable experience.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Right. But like I said, it's just I've been enjoying just getting into March Madness, and just it's been fun. I feel like around this time, I don't know if we talked about it last week. Like what I think we might have, but like obviously, what's the best time of the year for sports? Brand, you speaking on the mic has improved. No, I appreciate you, Sean Flanagan. Love you lots. Like I said, it's been I know you got March Madness opening day. With baseball coming up, basketball's obviously revving up. Then obviously free agent. The NFL offseason, free agency, and then obviously we got the draft. It's definitely a great time in terms of that aspect. And then obviously you got October when you got the World Series, hockey and basketball starting back up, mid-season of football and college football, so I don't know. Those would be my two around this time. And especially I think October, I would say, and June's definitely big too as well, or my birthday. And then obviously, like I said, right now, I think it's definitely a good time right now. And like I said, I just been appreciating what March Madness and what's been going on.
Yeah.
And I know we got opening day. Speaking of opening day, I know I'm very hyped and I'm very excited for it. I know a lot of our viewers. I know a lot of our friends, especially. I'm excited for opening day. I don't know what's to come in the Mets. Hopefully, like I said, at the end of last season, I actually stopped watching games. I would get utterly aggravated watching the games because we were losing every single game consistently, week in, week out. I knew we weren't going to make the playoffs. Some people were telling me hey, it's going to, they're going to make it. I'm like, really? You sure about that? Are you sure about that? We weren't hitting, we weren't producing runs. Our pitching was atrocious. It was coming down, and we had a great start to the year pitching wise. And obviously, it crumbled. I remember you saying your concerns with the pitching staff. It showed. So disappointing into the season, especially. I know we got Juan Soto. What's going on with that? I get it. Even though he had a great year, and which is great. That was great to see. I'm excited. I'm excited right now for the Mets season. I'm still excited when it comes to September. We're going to find out. I'm excited to watch Freddie Peralta, open up the season for them. I would go to the game, but obviously I'm working. I can't. And obviously it's going to be on Peacock, so we'll find a way to watch it. But I'm excited for the Mets. I love seeing Carson Bench make the roster. The Mets kind of moved Juan Soto, I feel like, because they kind of knew what was going on in right field. Carson Bench coming up. And I feel like they're also going to make way for Mike Tauchman, even though he did just tear his meniscus, so he's going to start the year on the IL, going to get surgery, blow in that aspect because he was having a good camp, spring training. Obviously, Carson Bench, first rounder, 19th overall. He batted over 360 with a high-end OPS, proving his ability to handle advanced pitching and hit in all fields. Has a great arm and obviously had a great spring training, so he earned the spot. I don't know, David Stearns alluded to it, that this was the opportunity. He gave this was Bench's opportunity. And obviously Bench took advantage of it. And that's another reason why I'm excited, for opening day, because obviously see, a Mets rookie I think he's 11th player in franchise history to make the opening day roster and start. I read up on it last week from Newsday. So, and obviously seeing Bo Bichette, I know Bo Bichette's had a good camp. It's going to be interesting to see how these pieces they've been plugging in, how Jorge Polanco's going to fare at first base, Bo Bichette at third. Obviously, you got Lindor at second, and then obviously second base, you got Marcus Semien, who's had a good camp. So yeah, I'm excited for the Mets. Now, what could you say about the Yankees?
I guess I'm excited, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel like maybe Oswaldo Cabrera could have been on the roster. That would have been nice. No Carlos LaGrange on the roster right now.
Really?
I'm trying to find their actual opening day roster. But I didn't see it on ESPN.com. Maybe on MLB.com. Blah, blah, blah.
But yeah, I know the Yankees. I wonder how Judge is going to fare, especially coming off the World Baseball Classic. Hopefully this is something he could brush off his shoulders for the Yankees aspect. I'm sure, being back in the, opening day for the Yankees and being around the atmosphere of the fans and the team, I feel like it's going to brush off quick for him. What? Your face? Let me hear it.
Well, Carlos LaGrange is pitching for the Yankees today.
Okay.
So maybe he's going against Shota Imanaga. So maybe there's still a chance he makes it.
Okay.
I don't know. I just hope we win. I just hope our team wins the World Series this year. I'm so done with this freaking thing.
I feel like, Cam Slittler is definitely going to come under, I feel like he's under the radar. He had a great, he pitched great for you guys down the line last season, especially in the playoffs. Definitely some excitement around there. Luis Gill. Is that how I pronounce it?
Luis Hill.
I had it. I knew I had it.
You got it. You got the first
I had it. I had it the
buddy,
first
you
time.
got to trust yourself more.
I took him to fantasy. I'm expecting that he's going to, prove better. I know last year he had injuries, and I said it during our fantasy draft call. Last year, why were there so many injuries with pitching? Because when I was reading the overviews for them, I'm like, what's going on here? Every pitcher was at some point either on the IL. Yeah, at one point. What's going on?
I don't know, buddy. You tell me. I think I don't know. If I had to guess, Dennis will play Doctor here. Dr. Mario. I think the philosophy on pitching is not conducive to winning anymore. They want guys to maximize every single pitch. I just think that's not sustainable for the human body. And I think that's a big part of why they're getting injured so much, especially with the pitch clock. And I think that if, instead of trying to throw 108 miles an hour every pitch, if you just kind of pitch to get outs, maybe there'll be less injuries. But you know what? People that make far more money than I am and spend much more time trying to solve this specific problem are not me. I'm not them. So what would I know that they wouldn't? I got no idea. I don't know. That's my answer. Very long-winded. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. What other teams do you think are going to have a good start to the year? And then obviously, we got the Dodgers. They got Shohei. They also picked up Kyle Tucker. What other teams do you feel like thumbs down from the D train?
I have my Dodger hat over there, but I'm going to pretend I don't.
I'm excited to see what's going to come of that. The Diamondbacks, obviously, I think they play the Giants in the second game. There's two games. There's the Mets to play the Pirates. Of course, they set that up. They want Paul Skeens to go up against, Freddie Peralta and the Mets. That's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah. Giants are playing the Yankees in San Fran, so that would be the first one. The other teams I'm curious about, the Blue Jays. They made the World Series last year. They took the Dodgers in that loaded roster to the Game 7. Extra innings Game 7. And, I want to see if Addison Barger and Ernie Clement and Trey Yesovich and all those guys that were calling up late in the season last year can really step up and do it again. They made the World Series last year with an injured Bo Bichette. Yeah. So let's see if they could fill that void long term or if it really was just a flash in the pan. I'm excited for what the Blue Jays can do, especially because they're in the Yankees division. So I kind of got to keep an eye out for them.
Okay. It's true. That's very true. Yeah, the Blue Jays, I know they had a great year. Obviously took the AL East away from the Yankees in that tiebreaker. Defeated them in the ALDS and obviously made that run to the World Series. They were 2 outs away. Of course, then Miguel Rojas would otherwise. It's definitely going to be interesting in terms of that aspect. But, I'm excited for opening day. I know there's a lot of teams. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. Just the fact that baseball's back. I want to get to a game as soon as I can. I know I have a game April 12th. I try to get you to go to a game. I know you're busy. I want to see Nolan McLean. I want to see how he's going to do. And, just a fun atmosphere. Definitely would want to get a Subway Series game in. That's going to be interesting to see how I plan around that. But, yeah, it's going to be fun. Anything else in baseball before we maybe we'll talk football for a little bit quick, though, maybe.
I don't think so, but I feel like my dark horse team, Athletics, I could see them winning that division.
Okay.
We'll see.
Some good players.
Nice lineup.
All right. In football, I know Jason Jackson Smith and Jigba just got paid the bag. He got $42 million per year in a 4-year, $168 million deal. And obviously, if it wasn't for Sam Darnold, I don't think he would have got that kind of money. Because like Sam Darnold was, granted, look, he was playing good with Geno Smith. And I'm not trying to hate on Geno Smith. But obviously, you could see the level of improvement that came with Sam Darnold coming over and taking control of that offense, where Jason was playing at the elite level that, potentially he showed coming out of college and into the draft in 23. He showed what teams, like how teams were viewing him coming out of the draft. He was going to have seasons like this, have almost 1,600 yards, and then come clutch in the playoffs. So great on him, though, He earned it 100%, but I'm just saying Sam Darnold's impact was huge on him this season.
I don't think I agree.
Really?
I don't think I agree.
What do you mean by that?
Don't forget, JSN is getting wide receiver 1 targets now. They had DK Metcalf before that.
It's true.
So I don't think it's as much about Sam Darnold isn't much. Sam Darnold definitely helped that you upgrade at quarterback, you upgrade at wide receiver just by default, but I don't think so. I think him getting those important targets, especially on third down and whatnot, I think that's really what did it for him.
DK didn't
Yeah.
overcrowded that wide receiver room because obviously great combination, DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba, but obviously DK was, he was there before, he had the experience. He was the number one receiver before, Jason was there, and then he was kind of the wide receiver too. But obviously trading him away, getting, and then, and then not trading away that contract, giving it to the Steelers, that solidified Jason as the official wide receiver one. So yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Now, I don't think Sam Darnold had no impact, but I think JSN had a natural progression, year-to-year improvement, and being the number one guy. And also, if you're the best player on a Super Bowl winning team, you're going to get paid. Right. And I think the Seahawks know Sam Darnold's a good quarterback, but JSN was their best player. So he's going to get taken care of. I should have worn my JSN jersey. Gosh, what was I thinking?
We look at Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker also was an impact in the playoffs and Super Bowl. The Seahawks were just a great team in general that last year.
Oh, yeah.
And Sam Darnold was obviously, that was the missing piece. So, but yeah, not like I say, either way, kudos to Jason. He is officially the highest paid receiver in the NFL. So good for him. And yeah.
Okay.
So I think that kind of wraps up for the show. What do you think?
I think so. This was a fun one.
No, it was great. It was good. I think it was good. We did it today. Change it set for Friday. It was Monday. Get out of the way. So it was cool. And yeah, no, obviously a pleasure talking sports with you, of course, and the viewers that we did. I like how we included college basketball. It's cool. March Madness, a lot of madness this March, in my opinion. And yeah, I guess that kind of wraps it up. Thank you to everybody that tuned in to SportsShack today. Shout out to our good buddy Jason Brandell. I know he definitely tuned in. Obviously Sean Flanagan, of course. I think he tuned in as well. Joe, who was in the count? Joe, I know he's
our good buddy Joe Iacono from our fantasy baseball league.
Joe Lacona.
Joe Iacono. Yeah.
Iacono.
Yeah, my guy, my buddy.
Thank you for tuning in. So like I said, thank you everybody for tuning in to Sports Shack. My name is Brandon Talley, along with Dennis Tui. Everybody enjoy the rest of March Madness, and I hope everybody enjoys opening day.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
Top notch. Top